All right. Hello, thanks for joining. This is CodeStream 2.1. It's July 31st, 2024. This is Daniel Friedman. Also, hello to my brother Jacob for his birthday. As with some of these code streams, I'm going to begin it with a big code push. So this is going to be CodeStream 002.1, many areas and updates, many updates in P3IF and methods. And while that is processing and pushing, and then we'll reload and check it, here's where we get to today. Where we get to is 476 pre-proto-meta grants. I'll be explaining more, but here they are by entity to break it out a little more clearly. We have 6 entities: Active Inference Institute, Mal Albarracin, Ines Hippolito, Carl Friston, John Clippinger, Chris Fields, and Mike Levin. And then we're going to be intersecting them with a variety of real government grant affordances reflected by the calls for applications, and then do a variety of synthetic intelligence methods, for example, visualizing it in different ways, but also generating realistic grants, and the cognitive model that underlies this all will also be shown. So push the origin to GitHub. This is a big push. Then we'll reload the page, and I'll go through it in the context of Cursor. The program I'm using here is cursor.com, formerly cursor.sh. Okay, let's just jump in and we'll reload the GitHub in a second. So first, just on the to-do. This is CodeStream 2.1. First item, as with every to-do list, make the to-do list. To welcome, collaborate, live chat, meme, etc. Learn. Then here are some other P3IF to-dos and the PyMDP Active Inference Python API that Mao shared with me earlier. So we'll develop this. I'm looking forward to people's chats and questions, and I'll add in different methods to the to-do, and we're going to collaborate it. It's going to be awesome and open source. Okay? I'll push this micro edit just to confirm. Push. Looks good. Active Inference is a big repo. In a later stream, we'll do more of a top-level overview, but here we are in section 1_prepare, methods, research methods, and that's where it all begins. So I'm going to close GitHub, and let's go into Cursor. Just to familiarize with Cursor, this left pane is the file structure. This pane is the code editor, the notebook. This bottom pane is a terminal interface. And then sometimes, like with Command-Shift-L, there's a side AI chat window. So variety of different methods, and Cursor's been improving a lot and totally could not have done it without Cursor. So again, thanks to them. So let's see where those outputs are in the folder. First though, let's look at the README. So let's look at the README on GitHub. Meta grants README. The meta grants process is a sophisticated 3-step procedure. I wouldn't say sophisticated, but I didn't edit this one. Preparation of input data. This is going to be curating the transcripts and the materials that we use to make cognitive models of different entities. 2, the generation of synthetic grant prompts. And then 3, a meta-analysis. So this is at this point, it's a user manual process of grabbing relevant resources and putting them into entity folders, which I'll share. That could also be automated. That's a good stop if anybody wants to enter. The second step is a script that scales across entities, grant opportunities, and catechisms, which are like question and answer based ways to work on projects. So scaling and combining across those 3 folders, synthetic grant prompts are prepared. And then the linguistics of the synthetic generated grant prompts are compared. And then I'll show how you generate the actual written grant from the synthetic pre-proto-meta-epi grant prompt. Okay, so step 1, preparation of input data. Here, I'll have it up both in the GitHub file structure as well as in the Cursor. So, I'll close some of these lower. Okay. So in the research folder, catechisms, entities, and grants, CEG, almost GEB, could be, maybe we can rename it. Here we are in the research folder, catechisms, entities, grants. So catechisms are questions. DARPA is famous for the Heilmeier Catechism, which is just a few short, simple questions. I generated a synthetic new catechism, just weaving together different kinds of questions that could be asked. And then there's Facilitator's Catechism, which RJ Corday and I have worked on and stemmed off of, and many others have too. So these are questions about, like, for example, the situation, mission, potential avenues of approach, milestones, implications of the outcome, administration, logistics, and communications. This is a type of operations order. We've adapted it into the research and development setting. It's going to help interface between the person's cognitive model and the grant opportunity. So the catechism is like the Q&A, pitcher and catcher, light and dark, all these kinds of ways that we can interface between the actual and the adjacent. The catechism and the question help get us there. Okay, then I'll go to the grants, and then last we'll look at the entities. So here's grants. Here we are, close up catechisms, open up grants. So here, each folder has grants in it. SAM.gov is just a special one because here it's broader than scientific grants. So there's an API method to work to push and pull from the SAM.gov website. So somebody could also develop that. That would be awesome to be able to pull more opportunities that aren't just the ones I manually pasted it. So what I did for NSF, DARPA, and IARPA was I copied in first a meta. So the meta is just some broader information. Like in the NSF case, it's just their division structure. In the IARPA case, I copied in their who we are / about us page. In the DARPA, where I only brought in one other document, the meta was about us as well and their focus areas. So then in markdowns as well, .md, I brought in essentially just plain text, the BAA or the announcement for the grant program. So then we can identify it with a call sign like these numbers. But I just brought in one for DARPA and then arts, B2. So we can look at these. These were not edited at all, but these are just the actual calls for these programs. So each of the agencies, and someone could add another folder. It would be awesome to automate, check, describe, etc. But that was just manually being copied in. Dean says, choose your editor wisely. So true. Okay, now let's get to the entities where there's kind of this interesting piece. So many of these are colleagues and public figures. I'm only drawing from the few transcripts that I put into each folder. So for example, for Mike Levin, here's the interview with Lex Fridman, other channels, Kurt, Theory of Everything. For Ines and Mao, which is kind of where at least this phase of the project began, I brought together several of their interviews. For Carl Friston, similarly, across these different individuals, focused on longer interviews just to get more content in, and also interviews that would be more likely to have statements about, I believe this because of that, or I don't think this is the case. Whereas the technical knowledge that's contained in papers, first off, may have less of a perspectival twist / slide / spin. It may just be more narrowly, quote, professional. It also may be multi-author, but also just from a semantics, I'm looking for the differentiating perspectives that the person has, not necessarily how variational free energy and expected free energy are linked. So what each folder is used for, here is another folder science prompt. This is just an example of prompt because I'm always mutating and evolving the fonts, but here's one prompt that I used. So I brought in first for each of these entities, I brought in several documents. Then I basically said, look through the current folder, extract key contents, perspectives, methods, then update entity.py. So there's only one .py script in the folder, whereas there might be one or more of these background context. Then write it in this pseudocode like py, make it really descriptive, really semantically informative, follow Python best practices, but it can be like a config. And then also, and this was a big breakthrough moment, was including quotes. So let's go through each of these cognitive models and just look at what structure they are. So first, I'll just note, There are a lot more structured, principled ways to make cognitive models using like Bayesian graphs, generative models, RxInfer.jl, everything we know and love and learn. At the same time, this is exploring a slightly related space that's like fuzzy cognitive semantic modeling through, in this case, cursor. So first, for Mike Levin, affiliation, research-focused terms, worldview, different topics with a summary of worldview. None of this is intended to be testimony or usable in any specific attributable way, because I'm making clear that information supply chain that leads to these very fuzzed and blurred kinds of representations. Additionally, it was a very biased and partial and finite sampling of materials, as shown by just several. And then also, it wasn't a formal claims mapping like Society Library or Trust Finder kind of approach, which is a nice complement, but just a statistical kind of way to crash these texts together and see what happens. So, key concepts: basal cognition, morphogenic fields, anatomical decision-making, scale-free cognition, bioelectric networks, bioinformatics of shape, xenobots, bioelectric, cognitive light cone, bioelectric code, top-down causation, implications for medicine, AI, philosophy, neuroscience. I'll make this a little bigger. Evolution, methodologies, the kinds of methods that his lab has worked on. Of course, we could add in timestamping, many more advanced methods. And then here's kind of pseudocode, like maybe one of the talks included, how do we predict the potential for regenerative something? Design of bioelectric networks, design of xenobots, and all this code is open source. So please expand, contribute, say that's not what I said, here's the quote where it was supposed to be different. Pure quotes, awesome, accurate. If they are, cool. If they're not, again, it's just pulling from that density. And then those kind of pseudocode methods. So that's Mike Levin. Here's Ines Hippolito. So here we have some Boolean stances. Socially distributed cognition, true. Cultural permeation, parameterization. Historical context, true. AI technology beliefs, these might have been extracted from Ines saying something like, I don't think this should be a neutral tool. So then that can be extracted as neutral tool equals false, or not neutral tool equals true. AI ethics, science approach, open science equals true. Holistic views, feminist theory, care ethics, various, again, possibly real, possibly simulacra quotes. I think a more advanced RAG system, retrieval augmented generation, can do a lot better citing and sourcing. Cursor is doing incredible with what it does, though. Here's pulling those config categories from above as if it were a pseudocode function or config, but it makes the API calling super easy. Quotes related to the implication of AI development, augmented sense making. Here, I also went on a few longer sojourns asking, and I also, the only exception was that I brought in one paper that was a collaboration with Ines and a co-author, just to explore and just show, yes, this could also go for plain text for technical papers with LaTeX. It could be philosophy papers. So this is just showing it in this kind of GitHub-like way. Okay, AI, what's the role of AIs and LLMs in sense making? Support creative thinking, true. You decide. Foster critical thinking, true. Promote reflexivity, true. Support relational autonomy, true. So it's these beautiful phrasings and elegant snippets, perhaps verbatim, perhaps not, pulled out in a way that, as we're going to explore, is going to be absurdly actionable. Quotes, ethics, implementation, and activism, kind of pseudocode terminal methods. Okay, let's look at Chris Fields. And it was awesome just qualitatively exploring, where are there podcast guests? Yes, we can download the papers. Like, I've downloaded all the papers. I think it was 99 PDFs in the end from Chris Fields' site. Use those in a RAG system, but this was just a first pass. Few of his 2023 course, physics as information processing from the Institute, but also some other like deeper and longer conversations that he's had and presentations. Again, because a lot of the technical content and the material in the papers on the website is already learnt implicitly or explicitly by today's or tomorrow's models. So here we have another structure. Field's worldview, importance with a score out of 10, interdisciplinary approach, holographic principle. He said it might apply, not to physics, so it gets an 8. But then interdisciplinarity gets a 10, or observer dependence gets a 10 because of the strongness of the stance. It could be a statistical misattribution. That's where the formal annotation and all this kind of second pass comes into play. Implications, a lot of them look pretty good to me. Stances, summaries and values of stances on different philosophical dimensions, plays in well with some of the upper ontology pheromone work in the actual quote ant section of this repo. Here's some of that Hippolito style Boolean definitions. Here's the kind of methods that his lab, so to speak, could apply. Quotes, more quotes, key papers. Not sure, maybe those were mentioned. Those could be augmented again with the papers themselves, broader citation databases. Here's some more simulative methods. I didn't fully prune, but tried to steer it towards not giving scientific and technical methods and just capturing stances. Okay. Here's Mao Aberhausen. Okay. So this was a fun one. Here, there was also a really broad range of interviews. And again, great, like Love and Philosophy, Machine Learning Street Talk, Social Sciences course, Active Inference Insights with Darius, Denise Holt. Like, it's just cool to see. And so also things that other people say on these streams are included. It's not diarized. So that's one of the importances for the Active Inference Journal project, and the opportunity for people to volunteer and edit is to diarize so that we can then assign speakers to different sections of these talks. That will bring a lot more accuracy. Whereas right now, it may blur across what was discussed, even if that's not necessarily this person's perspective. So here we have core concepts. True. Key perspectives. So these are maybe more topical, whereas these are more like stances on topics. Methods. A little bit of 0 to 1 scaling of different stances. Let's see. Beliefs, quotes, or not. Worldview, implications, more key quotes, simulation of contagion, epistemic resilience, and then an example usage. Cool. Okay. Here's an interesting one. So here for the Active Inference Institute cognitive model, I just took in the 2023 ecosystem paper, had a bunch of authors. In a couple weeks, we're going to be working on the V2 process. So it's going to be another amazing, epic journey. But this is just an inkling of how the semantics of what we include in the ecosystem paper can play a proactive role and an incredibly interesting one in the whole ecosystem and multi-scale decisions that we make. And then I also copied in just a reformatted version of activities.activeinference.institute, just summarizing the projects that are happening like this week / right now. Okay. Here we have organization type. It's a 501c3 educational nonprofit. It's a volunteer organization. Here are topics that come up in the paper, even as referenced. Methods. These are drawn from the projects to an extent, like symbolic cognitive robotics by JF, RX and Fur work, neurophenomenology. Implications. Perhaps distilled from implications that are alluded to in the ecosystem paper. Perhaps implications that are just inferred from, well, if this activity were to do what it's described as being able to do, hashtag catechism, then what would be the implications? That's a section of the catechism that's going to come into play. Here's the stances. Open source. All true are open source, interdisciplinary collaboration, community engagement, sustainability, scalability, etc. More flavor and nuance can be brought in. But just to get us in the semantic neighborhood and going the right way on the street in the semantic neighborhood, it goes far. Core values, principles, goals, ecosystem structure, tech stack, accurate. Organizational structure, literally accurate. Quotes, representation of activities, something we do in the newsletter every week/month. So that was fun. That was fun. It just shows we can do this for groups. We could do this for groups of people. We could do it for groups of groups. Okay, we'll do John Clippinger, because I spoke with him earlier today, and then we'll do Carl Friston's last. Okay. John Clippinger. So here it starts with his expertise, his professional affiliations, perhaps in the present, perhaps in the past. Here's a typo, bioform, but it's all good. His education. Worldview. These 3 interviews that were brought in with Codex, Epicenter, and Denise Holt may have been a lot of bigger picture thinking. So we see like AI paradigm shift, institutional design, decentralization, transformation, complexity, life-centric paradigm. Concepts, key concepts. Again, not stances on the concept, but then that's where the perspectival element comes into play. Future predictions, perhaps there was a lot of predictive language. We're moving into a new era where we're explaining things by models, really. But is that really a period? Or does the sentence continue? Or was it ever said at all? Quotes. And then a focus on active inference applications and institutional design. Okay, Carl, and then we're going to get into the actual GrAnt method. This took a little bit longer than I thought for this overview, but I've shared how I made these entity.py scripts, which was first by bringing in the 1, 2, 3, 8 different sources as markdowns. A few of the times I did some cleanup activities, like I would select 200 lines, and then I would say, delete the blank lines, condense, etc. But I don't think that matters that much. It matters visually. So again, that's why in the Institute journal project, we can pursue accuracy and diligence and visual layout, accessibility, translation, etc. But statistically, this captures, again, a lot. So here we go. Carl Friston, perspectival / worldview. And Carl / anyone, like where things are surprising to you, let's like flesh those out, add in resources that balance and give nuance. Let's add in time code methods so we can look at like changes through time. Friston worldview, FEP equals true, active inference equals true. Okay, cognitive frameworks, key concepts, philosophical stances, embodied realism, true, inactivism, true, process philosophy, true, panpsychism, 0.7. Hashtag Friston leans toward this, but doesn't fully endorse it. But then we can be like, well, what is Carl's awareness and attention to the variance of his belief on whether I think that it's relevant that his panpsychism out of 1 is 0.7? I'm sure he would get a chuckle or a chuff out of that. Neuroscience, method approach, theories and models, applications. So it's kind of like, what could the mega Friston lab do and be? What if we were able to, like, hypothetically synthesize several hundred grants in a split second and then do semantic analysis? We'll see it in a few minutes. New additions, variational physics, quantum active inference, dark energy principle, little Shanna Dobson twist. Maybe he said it. Maybe it's just coming in from the other side. Nature of reality. Perspective on time and causality. Retrocausality, 0.6, ostensibly out of 1. Friston has discussed this concept but hasn't fully endorsed it. Machine consciousness possibility, 0.8. It's possible with caveats. Okay, this one I kind of kept it looping a couple more times. Quotes, great. Quotes, at least Friston-ish. Implications for AI. Key principles. Free energy principle. Any self-organizing system that is at equilibrium with its environment must minimize its free energy. Active inference. Action and behavior can be explained in terms of minimizing surprise about sensations. Wow. Maybe these things have been said like that. Expected free energy, a quantity that combines epistemic and pragmatic value in decision-making. Wow. Great educational learning. consciousness theory, Friston's theory on consciousness, life and cognition continuity. Okay, that gets us through the entities. Now having introduced the catechisms, the entities, and the grants, let's go on to the real methods. So anyone can clone the repo and add their own folders of entities as long as it looks like the repo here, like make the name of the entity just their last name or just an underscored single string and then prefix what you bring in with the same thing. It probably will work. Okay. So first thing, as per the README, so that was step 1. That was the preparation of the input data. Now we're in step 2. Generation of the synthetic GrAnt prompts. So here, I'm going to clear the terminal, clear. Then Python 3, write _grant _synthetic _prompt.py. It just wrote them all. Let's look at the script to see what it does. It loads and it imports information from the environment. That could include, like, these could be dispatched in different ways. I'm just showing one way to do it. Configures logging. Making it verbose helps just make it look cool in the terminal output, and it helps give the LLM, it gives timestamping, like down to the millisecond. That's cool. And then it helps give the LLM for future debugging, even though we want to bug and rebug. But in this case, debugging what the output is helped when it can go really specific. Okay, so the GrAnt writer, it could be the GrAnt prompt writer, but it writes grants as a method. So first, it gets all entities, GrAnt calls, and catechisms. So those are the 3 things, just like GEB, just like a hypercube, 4D, entities, GrAnt calls, and catechisms are going to get mixed. So the entities were looking for the .py that are in the subfolders of entity. The GrAnt calls are looking for the .mds that are underneath the agencies in grants. And then the catechisms is just looking for the markdowns that are right in the catechisms folder. So it loads in the content. Here's the generation of the GrAnt. Okay, here's where the plain text natural language prompt is written. So what's going to happen, it's going to concatenate like a mega ad lib with these 3 fields. It's going to start the text file by saying, as an expert grant writer, craft a compelling grant proposal that authentically represents the perspective of the given entity while addressing the specific requirements of the grant call. Your task is to answer the catechism questions comprehensively, ensuring alignment with the grant agency's objectives and the entity's unique capabilities. So that's a little bit of connective tissue around entity plus grant call plus catechism triple braid. So every text file is going to start that way. Then here with the braces is where the material of those 3 sections is going to be brought in. Assuming that it doesn't exceed the context window of the individual language model being used, then this all should fit in. Or maybe the grant call can be too long. I don't know. So it could be reordered. Then they're all appended by these instructions to carefully analyze the content and focus and use the catechism's question framework to structure the answer to the grant call. Because whether it's coming from DARPA or any other source, the grant call is like a question and answer from their rubric view. I'm just speculating / thinking about it in a certain way, one of many. But from their view, it's an inbound something to qualify and quantify, categorize, act upon, etc. So there's probably all kinds of other like methods and ways to think about it. But in terms of looking at what the grant is calling for structurally and semantically, writing the catechism that either in the last mile addresses those syntax requirements and those semantic questions, but just generically addresses like, has the syntax been accounted for? So then if the grant call says it must be under 12 pages, then in the catechism that's getting rendered for that project, that's not something I did here, but it's something that we do, then there can be a question, is it under 12 pages? Or how many pages is it? And there can be multiple questions. Those can be linked up to compliance and all these other kinds of things. And then there's, of course, the cognitive model, the entity content.py that we were just like looking and memeing through. So then that person could perhaps review what like an undergrad or an open source volunteer had prepared and then think, oh, actually, we don't have that capacity anymore. Like we don't have that machine. So remove that from the model so that the grant doesn't get wrapped together with a machine they don't have access to. And then they can add methods. So that could be kind of like keeping an updated semantic profile. And then again, it adds this general instruction and then says that the proposal should be good, etc. Then that's it, 140 lines. Here's what the output looks like. We're in research. There's the 3 folders: catechisms, entities, grants, research methods. So this is another more just focusing on analyzing the cognitive models, not synthesizing grants, but then this branch became just too fun not to do this on. So here's the 2 scripts. Well, there's the README, meta grants README. These can all have so many contributions. So if this is exciting or you want to just have this work under your hands or make a modification, and then especially if you want to recirculate that and improve and get different kinds of things working in the repo, it's going to be an epic repo. So here's the write synthetic grant prompt, and then here's the grant prompt meta-analysis. So under writing outputs, the grant prompts are in here. So here it's 476 items. So here there's 476 scripts. Plain text, I guess. So here, and they're informatively named. Here we have sorted by name. We have Active Institute by, and then a given DARPA program. And then there was 4 catechisms. So if you didn't want to have this plural catechism method for future like divergence, integration, reformatting, so that's really going into a dimension that may or may not be relevant. So then that entity folder the catechism folder, you can just remove the markdowns when you generate the synthetic and just leave 1. And then that'll do like a 1-dimensional vector along the catechism. So no loss of generality just by doing 1 entity like yourself or your organization, 1 catechism, 1 grant opportunity. So it works in the 1 by 1 by 1. This is not a cube setting, but it also works into the hypercube setting. And there's a lot of other even higher dimensions that we can go into, but just wanted to kind of snapshot this GEB cube, Rubik's Cube. So here's the 4 different catechisms, which have different length. Like the Heilmeier was just a few questions. These are just concatenated prompts coming out of the synthetic data. So here we have that general first line that just says your task is to write this grant and answer the catechism. Here's the copy pasta for the technical entity. Here's the BAA. And then here's that final piece. And the catechism is in there too. So that's what it looks like. It's just a text file, a markdown file that has the 3 entities exhaustively combinatorically generated. This takes only a split second. The linguistic analysis scales a little bit more slowly. Like it takes longer to do 20 document embedding than 2. It takes longer to do 2,000, etc. But at the 476 pseudo grant level, including a lot of these BAAs are like 100 pages or 50 pages of PDF. So that may condense down to like a smaller amount of plain text, but still these are all many page markdown documents, and they could be improved in their markdown. But here we have every combinatoric, every entity by every single grant opportunity by 1 or more number of catechisms. Okay. So that's the generation of synthetic data. And for a future CodeStream, we're going to do synthetic data and analysis and meta-analysis for P3IF. So just planting the seed. If anyone's interested in P3IF, which is kind of like the catcher's mitt from which this is the baseball pitcher or meta or pre-pitcher, then join that CodeStream or just find out by looking through the repo, but I'll get to it later. So that's the synthetic data. Here's the meta-analysis, and then we'll look at the outputs. So here, what's so cool about these code models is that there are probably many examples in the training data of pointing to like a folder of text files or a folder with subfolders of text files, etc., that with just a few bugs on my journey, these methods work super well. Again, because like making a word cloud or making even machine learning embeddings and dimensional reduction methods are actually really well simplified by the efforts of so many open source contributors. So here are the import statements. The Python class is GrAnt prompt meta-analysis. So it has a directory that it looks to for the prompts. That's this writing one, GrAnt prompts. And then there's the output directory. So here's the meta-analysis. I deleted the word cloud folder just locally, but it does generate, but generating the 476 word clouds, so one word cloud per pre, pro, meta, grant. So 476 word clouds, like that takes tens of minutes on this sort of older laptop that I'm using, off-sourcing the real heavy compute and externalities to Anthropic through Claude or 3.5 Sonnet, and then to OpenAI through GPT-4o. So those are the outputs. It's going to put them into there. Okay. Gets the files, reads in the files. It double checks that the output directory exists. So if it's already there, it's all good. If it's not there, it just silently makes the directory. These are the kinds of things that the LLMs, again, excel at and can really speed up bug. Oh, there's no directory. Oh, okay. Debug with AI. Oh, okay. Now it's there. Preprocessed text, tokenization. This could go off in the direct LLM method. We could use local LLM methods or distributed methods. Here's the generation of word clouds method. Here's the TF-IDF analysis, term frequency analyses. Here's several methods of document clustering and principal component reduction, tsne and singular value or vector decomposition, SVD. Here's the plotting methods. Here's the generation of the plots. Here's some more visualizations of the projections. More methods. Running analysis. This one just added it in like the last 30 seconds before starting the stream, like adding an ellipse of confidence around a given region. We'll look at it. So that's the meta-analysis. So I can run it. All clear terminal. So again, all we did was 1, prepare the entities, the grant opportunities, and the catechisms in the folders. 2, generated the synthetic data. Those are the 476. But if we added another entity, it would just make a little bit bigger of a hypercube. And then run Python 3 GrAnt prompt meta-analysis. Okay, so we'll watch this in real time because it's just going to output these same exact things that are already here, but then we'll see how slowly the word clouds generate. And then you can see, okay, so it starts with the term frequency analysis, but while it's chugging, we can look at what these are. And like, I'll show them. If people have specific questions, let's like get a few from live chat. Otherwise, it would just be awesome to return at the end of this to the to-do, restructure that a little bit, and continue this fun path. So here's in the clustering. Here we have hierarchical principal component. So now that finished the TF-IDF, confirms that that was maybe reading it in. So 476 documents are read in. Now the clustering is happening. Okay. So here we have, it's a continuum being applied to this continuous color scales. Some of the visualizations, legends, axes, etc., but also partially because the entities are labeled so longly. Here we have principal component analysis. So the first 2 linear decompositions that explain the highest fraction of the variance for the inverse term frequency. Or the word frequency, however it's calculated. So let's like look in a little bit more. So here it's like, here we have in the purple cluster, we have some NSF, 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 Albarracin, Friston, Institute. Here we have IARPA Reason, and here's like another, maybe these grant programs even. So here's 2 agencies, Rescind, Reason, or we can say, oh, well, actually, it's all Hippolyto. So on principal component 2, Hippolyto has a high value, including this, whereas Friston and the other authors have a low value on PCA2. Friston, on one hand, has the high PCA to the left. I just remade that image. Okay, it's printing some network statistics into the chat. Maybe these are used in visualization. Maybe they could be used for statistics. Okay, here we have k-means clustering. So here it's exploring different numbers of clustering. It'd be awesome to know the loadings of these vectors. So here we can see, again, kind of up in the top, Hippolyto. Here's a tight cluster with Albarracin, Friston, etc. Friston. Here's a support vector. So this is just, each point is one pre-proto grant. So, of course, sharing the same entity and sharing the same grant on those axes, you're identical, and sharing the same catechism too. So that's what's sort of interesting. It's like, well, what pushes you away, or what's causing multiple entities and grants to cluster in? Like, what is it that Hippolyto would say to B24IC that was synthetically responded to in the synthetic catechism? Well, these haven't generated the grants yet. I'll show those in a second. But what is it about even the prompt that already might be giving us information? Let's just show one example of now writing that grant, because I think otherwise it's like, oh yeah, why again? So writing outputs, grant prompts. Perplexity.ai, another incredible service. So here we go. I don't know what these codes are, so let's do Albarracin by NSF 23615 with the synthetic catechism. Upload. This could be done with APIs, but I'm just going to say write it, because all the semantic of what I want is already included. So here's Perplexity. I will now craft compelling grant proposal that authentically represents the perspective of Dr. Albarracin while addressing the specific requirements NSF Division of Physics Investigator-Initiated Research Projects PHY solicitation. It's going to align with Mao's interest and expertise. I think it might. And then the December 12th, 2023 deadline. Oh no, unless we're going back. So here it is. Project. This is using the synthetic catechism. So now let's look at another Perplexity where we do the same project, same person, but with a different catechism. Like I expect that Albarracin 23615 Hallmeyer is going to be a shorter output because the questions are shorter. Okay, so anyways, we saw the first version of that. Here it is structured according to the synthetic catechism, several pages, realistic, center of the distribution, given the emit, but still generating. So how rapidly is it moving from experts come up with ideas on through experts, and including, not replacing, experts evaluate ideas on through what is the organizational commitment and determination to follow through with these 476 or 476,000 grants that we're about to generate and that are open source. Still going. I'll copy it. I could bring it into a text editor, or I'll just make a little test.md. And in the background, while we're looking at another thing, I'll do structure this professionally as Markdown ready for grant submission. Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Okay, in this window, now let's do 23615 Hallmeyer. So this is just going to be analyzing the difference and the relevance of using a different catechism. Because here was the synthetic intelligence catechism, and here's the Hallmeyer. Okay, so while Perplexity's plugging, here it is, another instance of Claude Sonnet 3.5, another instance. Computational modeling of cultural contagion dynamics and active inference approach. For a physics proposal, makes a lot of sense. Aim 1, 2, 3, 4, broader impact, intellectual merit, 500,000 over 3 years. Perplexity also using the internet to get real citations. So this has another added value with dropping it into Perplexity. I know there's some web access in Cursor too, but Perplexity's web access is awesome. So writing the grants there, let's if anyone has a special grant request, let's just write it live. Okay. Here, grant prompts. Okay. So that was those two. And then we took the synthetic one. It still is green for adding code, red for deleting it, gray for hasn't looked yet. So it's getting near the end here. Still generating. Accept it. Okay. Let's rename this as Albarracin NSF CodeStream 002. Then in GitHub, it's going to be an intra CodeStream push, Control Enter, push the origin. Okay. Reload. Here's CodeStream 2. All right, here we go. Well, wow. Looks great. Looks great. Let's write another grant. Let's see. Chris Fields by IARPA reason. And in a new Perplexity, let's see Chris Fields write an NSF grant. I've always wondered about that. What is it like? And then let's get a Friston. Let's see Friston pitching to the meta and the history of the NSF at the institute/organization scale, because it's going to bring together Friston's worldview and then the NSF_meta, which is the just the divisional departments of the NSF. Oh, whoops, that one was Friston. Oh, this is even better. This is even better. Interesting. It was the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship Program, GRFP. Now, it would be quite a sight for Carl to apply for this, but actually it looks like Perplexity has said, oh, no, I don't do grants. I don't do homework. But let's see if we do the NSF meta. So, okay, let it be shown. The GRFP got dinged. Meanwhile, we were writing the Division of Physics, Information Theoretic Foundations of Consciousness and Cognition, and IARPA Reason from the Chris Field. So physics proposals and IARPA proposals are a green light. But the GRFP, just beware. I don't want anyone to enter the wrong thing. Okay, let's see. Friston by NSF meta. Oop, the typo, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, let's do Hippolito by DARPA. Let's just spread it around. Let's do Mike Levin by, let's do Facilitator's Catechism. Let's do an ARPA-H because it's health related for the NSF. Mike Levin, NSF 2459-1 by ARPA-H Catechism. Okay. Oh, not enough context. Maybe it didn't upload. Let's go back to the real Friston meta. Write it. Okay. Here was, okay, this was the Hippolito DARPA, Ethical AI for Augmented Human Cognition and Decision Making. Okay. Here was Mike Levin, ARPA-H, Bioelectric Morphogenesis. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is a representation of Friston and a representation of the NSF, just the departmental structure, mediated fuzzy statistically with the catechism interface. It's a pretty generic picture that's painted here. However, that makes a lot of sense. It's about, in this situation, as it was said by Perplexity, it's a research project or like a program on applying predictive coding and active inference principles to develop more robust and adaptive artificial intelligence systems. Okay, let's look at more of these meta and see how that goes. So I'm just in the Finder here, searching for meta. Okay. Let's say, what about, let's look at that also just to compare it. So here, let's do, what would the institute, as represented, sampled, reflected, distorted, etc., say to the meta of the NSF? Okay. And then while then let's look at what would Clippinger, in the kitchen with the jar of mustard, what would Clippinger say to the meta of IARPA? Okay. Okay, so this is the Institute to the NSF meta, project essence and vision. Okay, these are some of our objectives. Landscape analysis. The field of cognitive science and AI is currently dominated by diverse approaches, including deep learning, reinforcement learning, and symbolic AI. However, these methods often lack a unified theoretical foundation and struggle to address complex real-world problems holistically. Active inference, as an integrated physics-based approach, offers a promising alternative that can bridge descriptive and prescriptive approaches to cognition AI. Okay. Here are some of our methods. Impact, short, medium, long term. Comprehensive risk assessment. Resource, we estimate a total budget of $5 million over 3 years. We have a PayPal. Timeline, milestones, project management. Evaluation, team composition. Alex, Blue, and I, the actual officers. We could have included lists of the current and previous other roles, and then those people would be veridically brought into the grant. Super fun. Super fun. Okay. Here's Clippinger to the IARPA meta. Interesting. Very similar phrasing. Here's the current approaches that dominate. They're powerful, but they're unprincipled. So we need the first principles of intelligence. Huh. Okay. Let's do some more. How about Hippolyto to the DARPA meta. Write this in Russian. Here's Friston with the ARPA H to the IARPA meta. Write this in Spanish. Oh. It apologizes that it can't do that in the Russian language. Let's see if it will do it in the Spanish language. Interesting. It interpreted as write the document itself in Spanish, but then it's saying it's difficult, but then here's like another unrelated thing. So some work would have to be done, but that would be epic. Would be, okay, now how do we translate with LLM? Machine translation, speech to text, text to speech. So that's the infinite GrAnt Imaginarium, is the adjacent possible, the real vitality of where you can pole jump and tet spin. Let's keep going. Levin with the IARPA meta. Write it. Maybe write this would be more accurate. Okay. Hippolyto with the ARPA H in the NSF meta in the field. Write this. Period. Okay. This was Levin to the IARPA meta with the synthetic catechism. One could quibble. They could say, well, this is kind of generic and it's kind of bland and it kind of focuses more on bioelectric code and regeneration than IARPA's vision. Okay, but then update the material from that organization or directly modify the cognitive model and then make it so that this output makes sense. Okay, here's the Hippolyto by NSF meta by ARPA H. Interesting. I think it's because the ARPA H catechism, let us verify. Here, style requirements, word count limit 250 words or less. So let's kind of confirm that it's basically writing the short summaries for the ARPA H. So now I'm going to slice on ARPA H. Okay. Let's see, Friston in 250 words if the LLM is being well behaved. Let's do Friston IARPA source code. Oh, we want the ARPA H. Okay. Write this. Okay. And then let's do a meta summarizing so much. Here's IARPA meta with Friston and the ARPA H. So this is like Carl sending a text message with the ARPA H compliance to IARPA's broader picture. Maybe. Carl, 250 words. My guy. But it looks great. Okay. I don't have enough context. Maybe it wasn't loaded in. In fact, it wasn't loaded in. So just a slip of the finger. Let's see. Friston B241C IC by the synthetic. So this one's going to be longer because we're prompting it with the synthetic. Okay, if people have questions, please write them or comments in the live chat if you so wish. And then in the last 10 minutes of the hour, or we'll see where it goes, let us think of some next steps. Okay, so IARPA Biointelligence and Biosecurity for the Intelligence Community B24IC. Probably that's the name. I don't even look at these things. Technical Proposal Overview. Alignment with Mission. OKRs. Wow. Our project will pioneer the application of the free energy principle and active inference to biointelligence. Wow. So true. Current biointelligence approaches rely heavily on pattern recognition and genomic data, environmental sampling, and epidemiological modeling. While effective, these methods often operate in silos and struggle to integrate diverse data types or adapt quickly to novel threats. Okay, there's key players, competitors. Okay, what's the innovation? Apply active. Apply active. Apply active. Okay, Dean asks, what will GrAnt reviewers think of this? What a great question, Dean. What will GrAnt reviewers about this? Too funny. Okay, let's do another GrAnt. Let's do some of the synthetic one. Let's do a few that have grants as reviewed. So then now that would move into the anticipatory review. So now for this step, I'm just manually showing just to clarify, but this could be done with generative research teams, GRT, or any other kind of LLM orchestration framework, and those tools exist in the repo. Okay, let's do Hippolyto to the NSF meta. Okay. Meta reviewer Dean. Alignment with mission objectives. It's okay. Scientific merit. Okay, these are kind of summary. How about make this into a table with bullet points are rows. Include a hyperbolic positive related plausible sentiment and a negative one in the table. Everyone's going to get asked this. First, what will the reviewers think? Oh, we can just go direct. What will reviewers think? Respond with a table. How about a table where bullet points are rows, or a table when bullet points are rows? Okay. 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 All right, Carl. This is the marriage of heaven and hell. It perfectly embodies the vision. The connection to IARPA's core mission seems tenuous at best. It's nothing short of groundbreaking. It's shaky. It's unproven. It could transform how we approach biosecurity. It's wildly it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. The risk and mitigation is robust. The technical challenges are insurmountable. It's a dream team. They lack critical expertise. It's impressively comprehensive. It lacks concrete, measurable outcomes. Haven't we heard that before? The attention to ethical implications is exemplary. Or does it seem like an afterthought? Open science approach will maximize the impact of this research. The data sharing plans are inadequate for a project of this scale. This approach represents a paradigm-shifting leap. Incremental, seamless, poorly integrated. Now, let's do restyle and expand this in a quote, who's on first hyphen type hilarious dialogue. Okay. All right. An S, positive sentiment. It's groundbreaking. It may be too theoretical. People can look at this and they can kind of imagine where it goes. Okay. So, Costello, I hear you're on the grant review committee for that fancy IARPA biointelligence project. That's right, Abbott. I'm reviewing the Friston worldview proposal. Oh, that's great. So what do you think about their alignment with IARPA's mission? It's perfect. Perfect? That's wonderful. No, I said it's perfectly embodies IARPA's vision for revolutionary biointelligence capabilities. Oh, I see. What about the scientific merit? Oh, wait, we need to do an institute to grant programs that shall remain innocent. But let's do the institute to a meta, and then let's hear it from the source. Let's do institute by DARPA meta. Okay. It's not. What about the scientific merit? It's nothing short of groundbreaking. Groundbreaking? They're digging holes? No, Abbott. The integration of Friston's theories with biointelligence is groundbreaking. Ah, got it. So what's the potential impact? It could completely transform how we approach biosecurity threats. Transform? Are we talking about robots in disguise now? No. It means it'll change everything. Everything? Even my socks? Your socks? What? No, just biosecurity. The preliminary results are exceptionally robust. Robust? Like a strong cup of coffee? It's a dream team. A dream team? So they're all asleep? They're the best in their fields. Fields? I thought we were talking about biosecurity, not agriculture. Okay. We'll get there. Would that, soften the blow? What will reviewers think? Respond with the table. And I'm going to, with a nod to Dean here, respond with the table when bullet points are rows. Okay. So that's the write 500 novels about the Abbott and Costello Friston verse. Let's just do a couple hilarious more ones. Okay. Let's think about, well, there's so many. Would it be an understatement to say that there's many ways to go? How about the AI and the care from what Hippolito, what the transcripts spoke to, and then think about defense. So here's Hippolito with the DARPA meta, which only has a little bit of information. Okay. Holy Grail, overhyped. It bridges fields in a meaningful way. Jack of all trade, master of none. Insert your favorite style that all this could be written in. Tenuous connections. Okay, it could be the unified theory. It sounds like pseudoscience dressed up in fancy mathematical jargon. The potential real-world impact across multiple domains is staggering. Lots of big promises, but where's the concrete evidence it actually works? Dream team. Can they actually work together effectively? Ambitious yet realistic. Overly optimistic. They'll burn through the budget before achieving anything substantial. Refreshingly honest and thorough. They've considered every angle. If they see this many potential pitfalls, maybe the project is doomed. Finally, a team that takes AI ethics as seriously as a technical challenge. All this talk about ethics will just slow down progress and innovation. Okay. Let's write this into a hilarious who's on first style dialogue. Okay. Here's Hippolito X DARPA meta. Augmented cognition through an active AI. Developing ethical brain-computer interfaces for enhanced human-AI collaboration. Okay. Okay. So you're telling me about this new theory called active inference? That's right, Abbott. It's all about minimizing free energy. Free energy? Like solar panels? No. It's about beliefs and probability distributions. Beliefs? So it's a religion? No, it's a scientific theory. It's about planning as inference. Planning? Like city planning? No, more like planning actions to minimize uncertainty. Oh, so it's about being indecisive. No, it's about making optimal decisions. I thought you said it was about inference. It is. Planning as inference. So who's doing the planning? The agent is. What agent? Like James Bond? No, any agent. Could be a person, could be a robot. So robots are making inferences now? Yes, and they're trying to minimize expected free energy. I thought you said it wasn't about solar panels. It's not. It's about avoiding surprising outcomes. Surprising outcomes like magic tricks? No, like avoiding your car crashing if you're driving. So it's a driving theory. No, it's a general theory of behavior. I thought you said it was about inference. It is. Behavior based on inference. So who's on first? What? No, that's a different routine. We're talking about active inference. Active who? Not who, what? Active inference. I'm actively inferring that you're not making any sense. Sigh. Maybe we should stick to baseball. Wow. Let's do just a few more. Let's see the Chris Fields. Let's look at Fields applying to some NSF grants. How about now in the analogous table format, what would two extreme views from a panel of reviewers be hyperbolized as reviewing the comedic value and art value and scientific parentheses research / education value of the dialogue? Okay, oh wow. Luck of the draw, luck of the qubit. Chris Fields' perspective, compelling proposal for the NSF National Quantum Virtual Laboratory, quantum testbeds. Wow. The proposal will focus on the design phase, aiming to develop a preliminary design for a quantum testbed that aligns with Fields' information theoretic and observer-dependent view of reality. Like if people send super chats, we could start this right now. Okay, here's the single sentence. Chris, see what you think. Our project's purpose is to develop a quantum testbed that demonstrates how an information theoretic, observer-dependent approach to quantum systems can lead to practical quantum advantages in sensing, communication, and computation. Okay. Landscape analysis, innovation, timeline, impact, risk assessment, impact, etc. Okay. Dr. Jane Doe, maybe it truncated here. Say, continue adding in realistic, actual collaborators in active inference and non-active inference quantum sciences. So the team is like the all-star team for what the best this project can be, will be. Okay. Okay. Little simpler. Okay. Comedic value. Again, you decide. Is it a masterpiece of scientific slapstick that it, with the plot twist and the escape and the break of the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh wall at the end? Wow. About as funny as a peer-reviewed paper on paint drying. They've managed to make both comedy and science insufferable. Print that in the newspaper. Artistic value. A brilliant postmodern deconstruction of scientific communication. It's like Beckett and Feynman had a love child. Okay? If this is art, then my grocery list is the next Mona Lisa. It's an insult to both the theatrical and scientific communities. How dare Claude? Scientific, revolutionary. The dialogue will do more to explain active inference than 1,000 academic papers. It's the future of science communication. This will actually be kind of funny. I'll pull up in another window. Okay. We could even do, copying stuff out. I'll comment on the thread. Okay, let's see. Wow, this is like, quote, social media live. So, anything can happen. First of all, this is from Real Now. First of all, I'm honored to be among all the other names. Now, can you tell me what I'm looking at? Well, there's so many ways to go into that. We could enter the images into Perplexity and say, Mao asked us this. Let's do something like, we'll respond manually. Okay, but first, okay, Dr. Jane Doe, maybe a real person. Dr. Maxwell Ramstead, where's the lie? I'm not familiar with the quantum researchers. I know Scott Aronson, just the blog. I don't know these researchers, but the second one was Maxwell Ramstead. That's a real person. So if we pursue the sources, like, maybe those are real. Okay. Write this. Okay. Oh, yeah. We were going to copy in. We'll comment. I'll trim the citations. Okay. Okay. And then it's like, preemptively, someone's going to be like, that's not funny. It's like, oh, no. We kind of gamed out some possibilities. But we'll let that naturally happen. Okay. Cool. That was an unrelated, quote, unrelated synchronistic occurrence with Jesse Cohn tweeting out his summary of Chris Fields. So, okay, let's respond to Mao. The images. Okay, wait. Thank you, Upcycle Club. Thank you for joining as well. Let's get a new grant in there, and then I'll read in your suggestion. Yeah, you're totally right. It was for the comedic value that it was happening like that. Let's do a Fields NSF grant. Like this might be kind of reasonable, just like the quantum one was, though. Or maybe it'll be him applying for grad school, and then we'll get then the AI safety comes into play at that point. Okay. Yeah, if anyone, like, what are we looking at? Okay. Thank you, Mao. The images are... I'm going to just link to the code, just so it's clear that it's not just these ad hoc images. I'm going to... This is from the GrAnt prompt meta-analysis script. Okay. The images are generated. Let's say the images are generated in 3 steps as this README describes. And then like that link can be improved. We can make a redirect link, but we won't. The images are generated according to the process and files described here. described in open source code here. Short X summary. Okay, but meanwhile, I'm going to keep plugging on the upcycle request. Okay. Okay. Okay, it's another NSF quantum Chris field, so this is going to be a great one to do. Okay, still generating. Oh, market analysis. So I wonder if this was a, let's look up NSF 2159. 21593 NSF. Okay, investigator-initiated research project, kind of a general BAA, perhaps. Okay. Okay. Then, okay, I think we get it. Okay, so Upcycle Club wrote one suggestion. Okay, what might reviewers think of this grant? Question mark. Please respond in table where rows are the rubrics sections, columns reflect the views of reviewers who are extremely positive, very positive, moderately positive, moderately negative, very negative, and extremely negative. Wait, who's on sixth base, though? Okay. Okay, back to Mao while this is generating. Short X summary. I curated transcripts for each entity from a few podcasts. I created plain texts made by each entity from a few podcasts and papers, mainly podcasts. Okay. Okay, we'll get there. I generated synthetic data, SD. I generated synthetic data reflecting concatenated, quote, what I would put into an LLM like at Perplexity in order to write this grant as just this grant in order to reduce my surprise about what a great grant by this person using this catechism format, submitting to this grant opportunity, end quote, comma, reflecting a concatenated output, which is basically as the quotes suggest. It's an extensive text processing with some statistical elements and some deterministic elements and some manual elements, etc., that ends up being what I want to put in Perplexity or send through a local or a distributed other model. But I believe that combination, even I'm entertaining the belief, can be achieved. These images then reflect linguistic / semantic debate for another day analyses such as dimensional reduction / projection methods, PCA, TSNE, etc. Across the synthetic data, in this case, it is 476 pre-proto hyphen this is not a grant, which are analyzed with standard basic methods. Happy to continue exploring with you and or any others. Parenthesis. Let's add more / better information, more entities, and opportunities. Translations. Oh, this kind of is getting into the to-do. Okay, let's just briefly go there. Okay, to-do. Of shorter term and longer term. Easier to read, write, new. Oh, the word clouds are still generating. That's what they look like. But this was a transcript, so can be. I removed some stop words, but they're not all removed. Okay, easier to read, write, new, entities, resources, agencies, grants, opportunities, connection with active inference journal, translations, archiving, text to speech, speech to text, etc. Translations in / across human languages, programming languages, math / formalism, familiarities, epistemic, and pragmatic values. Longer term, we might get to these sooner though, but of course that's how it goes. Retain exact semantics, operationalize this to-do list, parenthesis, it is an open source project. This markdown file will be on GitHub. Okay, here we go. Quickly to Upcycle's 6 reviewers. Okay? Yeah, groundbreaking. So intellectual merit. Groundbreaking, highly innovative, interesting, moderately negative. This is kind of like disinterested. Overly abstract, speculative, lacks rigor, and then the extremely negative, it's fundamentally flawed based on pseudoscience. We've been all over the map. Transformative, strong, promising, not well developed, not articulating benefits. Project could potentially mislead the public about quantum science. Investigators. What about Chris Fields? Visionary leader, strong team, competent investigators, lacking some areas of expertise, limited relevant experience, weak publication record, lacks credibility in the field, unqualified team. Okay, approach. Okay, how about this? Represent this as a 6-way who's on first type dialogue. Hilarious 6-way. Oh, 6-way hilarious, probably. Okay. Back to the to-do list. All right, let's just accept it. Okay. Here, going back to GitHub. Adding to do. To respond to Mao on X, formerly known as Twitter. Oh, it's made 300 word files. But c'est la vie. Okay, I'm gonna stop this script just because we kind of get it with the word clouds. I'm just gonna delete it and then re-push over that because we don't need all the word clouds there. Deleting word clouds. Okay. But here, okay. Okay, hasn't pushed yet because it has to compress. Okay, in these last minutes, if anybody has questions, please write them in the live chat. Okay, it's almost done compressing, then I'll just push it fast. Oh, it still takes a few minutes. Okay, let's see about the 6-way. Who's funding this quantum tech project? That's right. Who is funding it? Okay, I think it must be kind of hard to track these 6 scientists in this kind of complex dialogue format. Fuse that style with Gödel, Escher, Bach to make the dialogue less easy to follow. Okay. Then we'll just say, and or others, the to-do list for this part of the fractal repo is here. Okay. Let's just, or maybe it's not saved. There we go. Okay, let's respond to Mao. Post questions here. Or in GitHub, at GitHub. Okay. All right. Let's kind of close up. What a ride. What a ride. Okay. If anyone has a last minute question, I'll wait several seconds. Otherwise, we've pushed the edits. I'm just going to kind of close it all down. Leave us on the to-dos. Okay. Well, hope that's been interesting. There's a lot of ways to go from here. How about one last thing, which is ultra specifically add a section which addresses. Okay, Dean says, I feel like I just enjoyed a double shot on the Red Force roller coaster in some location that I can't see on my screen. Help me. Ultra specifically, what exactly should I do literally next? This live streaming of code was to to give a partial description. Surprising. Oh, Barcelona. I feel like I just enjoyed a double shot on the Red Force roller coaster in Barcelona. Never been there. Okay. This will be the last word. So it's like, okay, I watched the video. I looked at the code. Okay, immediate next steps. Set up live streaming, environment, day-to-day life. Prepare for the next coding session, engage with the community. Remember, the surprising nature of live streaming code requires flexibility and adaptability. Be prepared to explain your thought process, handle unexpected issues, and interact with viewers in real time. This new format offers an exciting opportunity for collaborative development and immediate feedback. Accept the edit. Make the final push. Epic. So reach out. Act in first serve. Bye.